Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Today I'm talking about an oldie but goodie. 1975's Let's Do It Again.
Let's do it in the morning. Sweet.
Starring Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby. Let's Do It Again is legitimately one of my favorite all-time movies. And it's part of a trio of films, not exactly related to each other, but they all have some of the same actors in them. It's the second of the three films, but since it's my favorite, I'm going to start with this one first. I'm going to start with the elephant in the room. This movie does star Bill Cosby, and most of you know about all the trouble that he got himself into for his freaky nature. But you have to understand something. For most of my life, Bill Cosby was a hero. I watched all of his television shows, from Picture Page to Fat Albert, The Cosby Show, A Different World. I loved Jell-O pudding and the Jell-O pudding pops, and he was just seen as an all-around good guy until all the news came out. This is still a great movie in my opinion. Let's Do It Again was directed by acting legend Sidney Poitier, who happened to also direct another one of my favorite old school comedies, Stir Crazy. It's a movie I need to talk about actually. Another interesting note, the soundtrack for the film was written by Curtis Mayfield and performed by the Staple Singers. Curtis Mayfield was on a roll back in the 70s, and you'll most certainly recognize the title track to this film.
Just getting good. Just getting good.
But not only does this movie have a great soundtrack, it's got characters with some awesome sounding names, like Kansas City Mac, Mongo Slade, Bootney Farnsworth, Bubble Top Woodson, Fish and Chips Freddy, and of course, Biggie Smalls. Yes, you heard what I said, Biggie Smalls. He was a character in the film played by Calvin Lockhart. Years later, a lawsuit would force Notorious B.I.G. to stop using the name Biggie Smalls. So what is this movie even about? Well, Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby played two average Joes, names of Clyde and Billy. They're just two working class guys with wives who are looking for a chance to get ahead. They come up with a scheme to fix a boxing match and in turn make a whole lot of money off the bet. Money that would help their own financial situations and for their lodge. Well, the scheme works so well that one of the bookies catches on, finds Billy and Clyde, and forces them to do the hustle again. But this time, he was going to be in on it.
They represent a brokerage firm.
The strong-arm brokerage firm of New Orleans.
To make back the money that he lost in the previous fight and to make a healthy profit for himself while also putting his competition out of business. So how does this hustle work? Well, our two main characters tell their wives that they're going on a business trip to try to make some money for the lodge, when in actuality, they're driving from Atlanta to New Orleans to bet on the Bootney Farnsworth fight. Bootney Farnsworth is played by Jimmy Walker, who at the time was incredibly famous from the show Good Times. He's an obvious underdog, and no one expects him to win this fight. Sidney Poitier's character Clyde has the ability to hypnotize people. He's actually reluctant to use this skill, and he says he learned it in the Army.
Where'd you learn to put the whammy on people like that?
The Army, Medical Corps.
Which sounds like a lot of BS, but whatever, let's go along with it. He reluctantly decides to hypnotize Bootney Farnsworth, turning the scrawny fighter with no chance of winning into an absolute animal in the ring. Of course, they were smart enough to wait until after the press had seen Bootney in his training camp, looking horrible. So just before the fight, they hypnotize him, and all of a sudden, he's now a monster. And by this time, all the good money is on his opponent. Now, there are two bookies in New Orleans that are major players. One of them is played by John Amos, and his name is Kansas City Mac. The other is played by Calvin Lockhart, and he's Biggie Smalls. These two are bitter rivals, with Biggie being the younger gangster with college-educated henchmen. Kansas City Mac is the old-school gangster who doesn't appreciate Biggie Smalls infringing on his territory. Clyde and Billy separately make huge bets with both bookies under the name Mongo Slade. And since they're betting on Farnsworth to win, the gangsters gladly take their money. The plan goes off without a hitch. Clyde and Billy manage to get their way back to Atlanta with the money. Now, Kansas City Mac, who I forgot to mention, his name in the film is actually MacArthur Clutch. He figures out that he was hustled. And it's many months later when he actually tracks down Clyde and Billy at their lodge in Atlanta. This is when he forces them to run the hustle again. But this time there's a big twist. Instead of hypnotizing just one of the fighters like Kansas City Mac asked, they actually hypnotized both fighters and had their wives go in disguise and place a ton of money on a double knockout. They manage to win again, but not before both gangsters figure out the hustle. So a short chase ensues, and with a little help from the local police, they're able to get away. Let's Do It Again is one of those movies I can watch over and over again. There are some incredibly funny scenes in this film, at least to me. Like pretty much any time you see Bill Cosby as Mongo Slade, it's hilarious.
I'm out in New York City, and me and my boys want to make a bet, but you.
All of the characters are cool and memorable, and the soundtrack is incredible. Listen, if you haven't seen this movie, you should really give it a shot. It's not available for free on streaming anymore. If I remember correctly, it was on Pluto, possibly Tubi, and on YouTube, free with ads. It's not now, but if you can find this movie, definitely check it out. However, I will suggest that on YouTube, you can watch the previous film in this trio, Uptown Saturday Night. That's also a great movie, and I'll be talking about that one soon enough. If you've seen Let's Do It Again and you love it, or if you hate it, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about it. And if this is the first time you're hearing about it, go watch it and come back and let me know what you actually think about this movie. So once again, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back soon.